All right, what's going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an accordion menu. Now, how this works is we have 6 questions here for this demo. Now, when we click on one of the questions, it's going to expand and allow us to see the answer for this question. And if I click on it again, it's going to collapse. Now, we're doing a few things here as well. You can see when I click on this, the plus changes to a minus so that it's open. And we can click on the plus here to close it, or you can click anywhere here on the question and that effect will happen. All right, so that is pretty much the project. It also is responsive. So if I click on inspect here and we go to a mobile version here, you can see that when I click on here, everything still works as desired, even on a smaller viewport. So let's go ahead and jump into VS Code and get started. Okay, so here in VS Code, we're going to start with our basic markup or HTML. Now we're going to begin doing a basic template using Emmet, and we're going to change this to accordion, or the title to accordion menu. All right. Now we're going to want to link up our style sheet by doing a link tag and doing style.css. And we're going to also want to import the Google font link that we're going to be using, which in this case is Railway. We're going to be using the font weight of 300, 400, and 500. So if you want to go ahead and include this font in your project as well, head over to fonts.google.com, I believe it's called, and look up the font Railway, and we're using these font weights for this project. All right. Now, moving on to the body here, let's go ahead and link up our app.js file. And there we go. Perfect. So that is all the importing we're going to be doing. Now let's go ahead and get into the markup here. So the markup is going to be pretty simple. So we're going to have an accordion wrap, and inside that accordion wrap, we're going to have the accordion items, which is going to have 2 children. One's going to be the actual question, and one's going to be the answer, and that is going to be our structure. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with a div with accordion. All right, and inside of that, like I mentioned, we're going to have each item. So we're going to give this a class of accordion item. Now inside of this div, we're going to have the question and the answer. So we're going to do an h2 with the class of accordion title, and we're going to have a p class to house the answer, and we're going to give that a class of accordion answer. All right, and that is going to be our basic structure. So let me copy over the question here. I don't really feel like typing it out. So the question is going to be, as you've seen in the demo, this is a testing question. And we're going to use lorem in here. So I'm going to do lorem 100 tab to give us some dummy text to fill this out. Okay. So like I mentioned, this is going to be the basic structure for HTML. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here to give us some more questions and content to have in this demo is I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this down 5 more times to give us 6 questions and answers. All right, so if we head over to our live server, you can see if I refresh this, here is what we're left with. So things obviously don't look good at all. We haven't added any style to this. So let's head over to our style.css and get started with that. All right, so to get started here with our styling, we're going to begin with doing a simple reset on our project here by setting margin to 0, padding to 0, and we're going to give this a box sizing of border box. We're also going to import our font family of Railway and give this a default font weight of 400. Now, if we save that, you'll see all the margining padding that is given to the elements by default has been removed, and we're going to go ahead and add our own here later on. All right. So starting with the body, to give the background color to the entire project, we're going to be using a color code of 082 D52, which is going to give it that nice blue we had. And what's going on here? I think because I have that selected. All right, so that's going to be it for the body tag. Now let's target the actual accordion, the whole accordion wrap itself. So that we gave that a class of accordion. So do this. Now we want to limit the height or the width it gets when it's on larger screens. Obviously right now you're not going to see a difference, but on larger screens, we're going to give this a max width of 1200 pixels. And to center that, we're going to do a margin of 0 and auto. So to make it look a lot better on smaller screens, we're also going to give this a padding of 50 pixels on all sides. All right, and let's give this a color of white so that all the text inside of this is white by default. All right, now that we targeted the whole accordion, we need to target these accordion items by themselves. So we're going to do that by doing accordion.item. Now we're going to do a border radius of 10 pixels to round the sides. We're going to give this a padding of, let's see here, 20 pixels, And actually, before I forget, let's take this color off here because we're going to make the background color of this white. So we actually don't need that on there. All right. You'll see in a second. Padding of 20 pixels, a margin bottom to separate these by 20 pixels, and also a color of white here. And let's see. Actually, I'm sorry. It's a background color of white. And there we go. So there we go. That's why I removed the color of white on the text, because I forgot that we were adding this white background to each accordion item. All right. Now, let's start tackling getting the plus icon over here and fixing up this header a bit. So we want to do accordion dot, I believe, do we do header or title? We did accordion title. All right. So accordion title here. And we're going to want to align items center, and you'll see why in a moment. And let's actually do a display flex, because you can't align things without doing display flex on here. And we're going to want a cursor pointer on the actual title itself. So when we hover over these, we'll have this nice cursor over the top when we are over that. Okay, and that is going to be it for the accordion title. Now, to get the plus icon in here without adding any additional HTML, we're going to use the after pseudo element on the accordion title. So if I do accordion title and we do 2 dots and we do after, we can add a content property right here, and we're going to do quotes, and we're going to add the plus. And if I do that, you'll see now we have a plus right here. We're also going to want to give this a font size of 40 pixels, make it a lot larger, and then that's why we used align item center, because we wanted these two to be aligned in the center. If I got rid of this, you'll see that it'll be it wouldn't look right, so that's why we did that. And we're also going to want to align this on the right hand side here. So what we can do is a margin left of auto, and it's going to push that all the way to the right over here. So we want to address the effect. When we click on this, it's going to change to a minus. So what we can do, now nothing's going to happen right now, is we're going to create a class, and we're going to use JavaScript to put this class on here, but we're going to create it for now, and you'll see that effect happen later. So we're going to give a class of active, active header here, and we're going to do the after property again, or the after pseudo element, and we're going to change the content to minus. Now, if I go over to our HTML and I add this class to one of the items, just to kind of show you what will happen here when we use JavaScript, we'll dynamically add this to it when we click on it. But to show you what happens, if we go to accordion title here and add active header, you'll see that now it's a minus, and then when I remove it, it's back to a plus. So that's the effect we're going to be looking for. So when we click on an item, we'll use JavaScript to dynamically add and remove the class to this H2 element right here. All right. And let's see what else we're missing here. So the last thing we need to do is we want to hide the answer by default, and then we'll use JavaScript to go ahead and show it when we click it. So what we're going to do here is do accordion answer, and we're going to want to hide this. So what we're going to do is set a max height of 0, and by default you'll see things are looking horrible because it's all scrunched together, and we're going to set a property of overflow to hidden, and that should tidy things up a lot. All right, and we're also going to add a transition on here, because as you've seen in the final project, let me go over here, when we click on things, the effect is very smooth, so that transition is what is causing that to happen. So if we put a transition on here of 1000 milliseconds ease, and we only want to target the max height property for this. All right, and that is going to be our CSS for this project, and you can see that when we click on it, nothing happens. So let's head over to our app.js and start hooking up the JavaScript so that when we click on this, they expand and collapse. Okay, so to get started here, what we're going to want to do is get a reference to each element that has the class of accordion-title. So to do that, we're going to create a variable here in our app.js named accordion titles, and we're going to set this equal to a document.querySelectorAll. And what this is going to do is going to get all references of the class that we passed, the class or ID, but in this case we're going to be using class, that has the name of accordion title. So what this is going to do is create an array with our 6 elements we have here on the page. Now if we had 12, it would create an array with 12 items, but since we have 6, there'll be 6 items within that array. Now the easiest way for us to do a iteration through this, because what we want to do is listen for a click event on each one of these elements. Now we're going to use a for each loop here, so we're going to do accordion titles dot for each, and we're going to pass the parameter of accordion title here, and we're going to do an arrow function here. And what we want to do, like I mentioned, is listen for a click on each one of these elements. So what we can do is we can use that prop. We just went ahead and added accordion title, do add event listener, and listen for a click event. Okay, so we do that by doing a quote and doing click, and we're going to do a comma here and then run a arrow function to run the code block when this event happens. So what we're saying here is each time the accordion title, which is going to be this, is clicked, run this code in here. So first thing we want to do is you want to add that class we created earlier in our CSS that's going to allow us to change this to a minus. Now the class name we gave that was active header. So let's do accordion title dot class list, which is a property, and we're going to do toggle. So each time we click on this right here, it's going to toggle that class on and off. So when we click on it initially, it's going to toggle it on. If we click on it again, it's going to toggle it off. So let's go ahead and add that here. So active header. Now if I save that, we should be able to click on this and see that the minus happens, and if I click on it again, it goes back to the plus. So that is working great. Now the last thing we need to do is get the max height of the answer question element and change that max height to pretty much allow it to fit in no matter what height it is at. So there's a few ways we could do this, but we're going to do things dynamically, meaning that no matter what height or how much content, if we had this, take up 1,000 pixels, that no matter what the size of the content is, we would not have a problem displaying it, because you could set the max height in the JavaScript to display maybe 100 pixels, but if the content was over 100 pixels, you would not see the full content. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a reference to the height of our answer element by doing a variable called const height. Okay, and we're going to set this equal to accordion title. Now we could create a actual separate variable to just get the answer element, but what we're going to do is use the accordion title right here as a reference and just simply do next element sibling, which is going to get the next element below it, which is going to be the answer element. Okay, and what we want to do here is grab that scroll height. So this is going to give us a reference now that we can use to set the max height when we are toggling and collapsing our element right here. Okay, so if we go ahead and just say, for example, console.log this right here. So we console log height, you'll see what I mean. It's going to give us the amount of pixels that the element would be taking up. So if I crunch this over a little bit, oops, that's too far. Let's go ahead and put this over here, and let's open our console over here. And now when we click on this, you'll see that it is actually 323 pixels tall. Now if I go over here, for example, and we change this to have more lorem, let's do another 100, lorem 100, tab that, save it. Now if we click on that, which one we just changed, the first one, you should see that the value should now be double. It's 646. So this is going to give us a way to dynamically always let that content fit in the accordion item. Okay, so let's go ahead and scrunch this back up over here. So now that we have this reference, we need to do a few things. Because we're going to want to show and then collapse it, we need to do an if-else statement. So what we're going to want to check for is if the accordion title dot class list contains the active header, we then want to run this code. And what that code is going to be, once again, since we use this right here to obtain the answer element, we're going to use this again by just doing accordion title.next element sibling, and we're going to paste that in right here, and we're going to set the style dot max. Why does it always do that? It's always autofills my stuff for me. So let's do style dot max height. We have the camel case when we're doing HTML within JavaScript. We can't do the traditional max height. It's gonna not recognize it. So let's go ahead and just put that back to how I had it. So we're gonna set the style that max height to our height property right here. Okay. So how we do that, we're gonna set it equal to, and we're gonna use some template literal right here, and we're gonna do the money sign, and we're gonna put the height in here followed by pixels. Okay. So now if I save this, you should see when I click on this that we have this nice transition, and the max height of the accordion item is set to the height that we got right up here. So now if we go ahead and close it, you can see it doesn't go back to 0. So that's where the if else statement comes into play here. Now we're going to say else. If that's not active, we're going to set the max height to 0, and that should go ahead and collapse it when it is not active. So let's go ahead and get rid of this right here, and let's just go ahead and get rid of that. And we're going to do 0, and we're going to put it in quotes, and there we go. So now if I click on one of these, you should see it expands with that smooth transition we had, and when I close it, it also collapses with that smooth transition. So that is going to be it for the project. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next one.